Grand, it started recording. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, Georgia. Do you want to introduce yourself to my audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I'm Georgia, and I am a mental health nurse.
Great. I mean, we are like the best nurses, aren't we?
I think so.
Yeah. And the reason I'm having the conversation with Georgia today is because I've known Georgia for a very long time. But also I think she's amazing. And in terms of her career progression to date and the things that she's doing, I think you guys listening would be really interested in the roles that she's done and how she's got there. So hence asking Georgia to come and share her story today. So I've got a few questions for you, Georgia. So we'll just start. So could you say a bit about your nursing background and what inspired you to pursue the profession?
So initially, nursing wasn't on my list of career paths. I actually wanted to be a music teacher. But over time, I became more increasingly interested in how the mind works. So I got a job at a mental health residential home and worked with people with schizophrenia. And I was so curious and fascinated, and I looked into what courses were available, found out that there was a degree course and applied, got onto the course, did my 3 years and got to work across lots of different areas during that time. And I think as a student or a student nurse, I still didn't know what area I wanted to go into, even though your placements are covering community, acute, urgent care. But I think doing the 3 years, it left me even more curious. And it's an area that every day you learn something new. So it keeps you interested.
It does, because there's this saying in nursing, like, I think I use this saying where every day is a learning day. I never know everything, and I wouldn't want to either, because I just sort of think then maybe I need to move on to something else. I could, always keep learning. It's a lifelong learning, that's what we call it in
100%.
nursing.
And I think I've heard quite a few people say that if I knew it all, then I am in the wrong job. Yeah. That is the time to move on.
Yeah. So true, so true. And it's interesting because we've never really talked about how we got into nursing, because similarly, and nursing wasn't my first choice, but I just wouldn't change it for the world, because I've got amazing friends like yourself and just the experiences as well,
And I also think with nursing, and I know for myself, when I started out, I thought I was applying to be a mental health nurse and I would be working on the wards for my whole career. I think even at that point, although I had placements within community, I saw a mental health nurse as someone that worked on the wards.
Yeah.
Actually, there's so many other roles that you can do, and not all of them have to be frontline, but you're still using your nursing skills.
That is so true, but we'll come on to that, because I do think even the whole bit about, like you say, when you're on your placements, and even now I think people get told it, but you get told you have to start your career on a ward, and people are constantly asking how do they go beyond the bedside, and I think it is changing slightly, but that's why I love having conversations with people like yourself, because then people can see how your nurse, those transferable skills that we talk about, is so pertinent in different roles within the NHS. And I think I said this to you, being a nurse in the role that you're in is like your superpower.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next question I've got, and because you mentioned it already, you've done so many different roles, is walk me through your career path from where you started to where you are now. And do you think there's any pivotal moments in that whole career journey that like sort of shaped your current trajectory?
So I began my career as a perinatal nurse. So at 21 years old, and on my 21st birthday, I got a phone call to say you were successful at interview, and I was so excited. And it was a lovely mother and baby unit had just opened. So it's a fantastic opportunity to be part of something that was brand new to the trust that I was working in. And it was a really lovely job, and it was a role that I did for a couple of years. But for me, I wanted to go to somewhere that wasn't so specialised. I felt that was important for my own growth, to actually do something where I was able to branch out and broaden my knowledge and skill base a bit more. So from that role, I moved up to London. I worked in the London Trust, and I worked on a low secure unit. I worked in, it was also back then it was forensic rehab. And I had such a good time, and I had a really, really influential line manager and supervisor at the time. And I think I was very happy to remain at a band 5. I wasn't necessarily thinking about, okay, I need to go up to the next band at this point. But when my supervisor, she got another job, I think that's the time when I thought, actually, maybe I need to be sort of branching out a bit. So I applied and I became a care coordinator, or a community psychiatric nurse. So worked in the community, supported people with complex emotional needs. And then I moved towards an assessment team. So it was a assessment and liaison team. Often they're referred to single point of access team now, so SPA teams. This was probably one of my, or up there with one of my favourite job roles. So working as an assessment practitioner, you were the person that would see someone with that wasn't known to secondary mental health services, and you would conduct a full assessment. And I am someone that's curious by nature, and I really liked getting to know that person and really understanding from birth to where they were now, what some of the challenges were, what were some of those triggers and life events, in order to then formulate a treatment plan. And I also learned so much from a psychiatrist. Like, it was a really lovely team, and it was an opportunity to learn and develop your skills. That's, I think, where I worked with you, and that's where my love for QI came in. So within that job role, there was an opportunity to be part of a quality improvement project, where it was focusing on our waiting lists. And from doing a quality improvement project, I was able to see firsthand how we can improve the care and the treatment we provide. And there was opportunities not only to improve the care and treatment for patients, for carers, loved ones, but also there was an opportunity for me to develop my skills, and I got to present at different conferences. And I remember you used to push me forward to be the lead to present. And I think finding someone that does that is so beneficial, because I don't know whether I would have put myself forward. I think I needed that push. Then there was an opportunity to do a research secondment. So I did that for a year. And again, it was a fantastic opportunity to learn about how we get to evidence-based practice and the difference of QI versus research. And both are really important, but both play a different part. And I think for me, it did highlight my love for QI, because I wanted to see those measurable changes. I wanted to see changes and the impact it had a lot sooner than waiting for the process of research to happen. And then I fell into a QI team. So an opportunity came up, and I moved into a quality improvement team. And I stayed there and was very, very happy for a number of years. And then curiosity took over. And I wanted to move back into frontline clinical work. So I became a matron. And then from that job role, I became a lead nurse. And again, both of these are fantastic leadership opportunities. You got to see, especially in the lead nurse role, you got to see how the NHS run as a business. So it's another opportunity to look at the care we're providing, but through a slightly different lens and perspective. And now I'm back in quality improvement. So my passion throughout all of that was thinking about how I guess develop my skill set, but follow my own passions. I wasn't in a rush to go up the ladder. What I wanted to do is ensure I did things that I was passionate about and took opportunities. Like taking secondments is so important. Even if it's something that you're not 100% sure about, the thing with a secondment is you've got your job to come back to, but you've got an opportunity to try something else.
That's so true. There's so many nuggets that you've dropped in there, and the only reason I pushed you is because I knew you could do it, but sometimes even in my career I've had people that put me forward for things that I felt I wasn't ready for, and it's important as leaders that we can spot those and support people to go to the front, because look where you are now. And it's interesting that you, in a way, you end up coming back to the thing that drives passion for you. And I always think it's really important that wherever you are working, that you love what you do. We spend so much time at work. It's really important for your health and well-being. And seeing, and I think you were able to interweave all the stuff that you've learned from being on the ward to the community, into QI, into the lead nurse, and back to QI. One of the things I wanted to ask, and I'll go back to the question, is moving from the inpatient to the community ward to the community, what sort of skills, because I know that's a question that people are always scared about in terms of, do they have the skills to go into a community team? What are some of the key skills that you think are transferable right away?
I think it's your engagement skills. So I remember moving from inpatient to community and thinking, how was I going to go and have an appointment with someone for an hour or half an hour, an hour? That's a long time. That's really intensive.
Yeah.
And thinking about some of the proactive engagement you'd have with a patient on the ward, I don't know whether it would be as intense as a solid half an hour, an hour. And that was something that I was thinking, this is going to be a huge culture shift for me. But actually, it wasn't. It was, you had a clear goal, you had your care plan. These are all things that you learn on the wards. You learn about care planning with the patient. You learn about risk assessing. And yeah, it's different because you know that in the community, you will do your Monday to Friday 9 to 5. You need to make sure that the patient's safe until the next time services are open. But that's your risk assessment. That's your bread and butter of being a nurse. And you do still have a team around you. I think the other fear is the fact that on a ward, you've got a team there. Whereas when you're in the community as a care coordinator, a lead practitioner, whatever the term might be within that team, it is still a team. You have things in place, you have forums, you have systems in place where you're able to discuss those appointments, those assessments. And it's just making sure you know how to escalate. So it's making sure you're aware of those systems and processes, but you aren't on your own.
Yeah. And that's important, isn't it? Because like you say, with the ward, it's 24/7, you hand over. But similarly, you've got that in the community where it's your morning meeting, your zoning meeting, your formulation, and people know where you are all the time. So you've got your lone working, and I like the bit where you said your bread and butter is risk assessment and care planning. Because again, I always say, if we're not constantly doing that as nurses with our patients, then what are we doing? I mean, we do lots of other things, but you're like, if you can't see the work that you're doing is constantly dynamically assessing risk and planning and mitigating against that, and those are things you do on the ward every day. In the community, it's just you and more people. So that's really interesting. The bit, and I'll go back to my questions in a bit. Actually, I'll go into this bit because you spoke about your first taste of QI, then going into research and understanding the difference about it, but then going back to frontline service, and now you're back. And I guess what led you to coming back to QI, and what do you find most rewarding about it?
I think for me, when I left quality improvement and went back into clinical, I went back into clinical to do a job role that was focused on improving quality. So the role of a matron is about upholding that gold standard quality of care. And I wanted to use my QI skills in order to do that. And the same with the lead nurse. It is about using all those quality improvement approaches and tools in order to unpick areas that we're not performing as well in, and thinking about what do we need to put in place and how will we measure that impact. I think from doing those two roles and my love for QI, I think what I realised is actually I wanted to have that relevant understanding of clinical practice. Yeah. That my love is actually supporting teams in order to help them through improvement projects. I think it's really difficult to juggle both a clinical role and lead QI projects. And I think that's what's so beneficial about a QI team, and just having those QI teams is you've got that support function and you've got experts in that QI role that can motivate and promote quality improvement. I think it's very difficult when teams are so busy to find that motivation and enthusiasm. And we have to find that. We have to constantly do better, and we have to continuously improve.
Yeah, that's really good. And looking back, what's one of your significant win or achievements in your career that you're particularly proud of?
I actually think it's a network of relationships I've built with inspiring clinicians that I believe have shaped me into the nurse and the leader I am. On a practical level, I think I am really proud of becoming a matron and lead nurse. For me, it was something I thought I could only dream about, but I made it a reality. That is something I'm really proud of. But it does come back to those networks and the relationships you make. Yeah. And those networks and relationships aren't about just those that are above you and leaders. Actually, it's your peers. It's those that made a difference and inspired you, that actually may be a lower banding than you. Like, we learn from everybody and we learn from people all the time, but it's just making sure if someone's inspired you, make contact with them, make those connections, but keep them. I've got people that maybe I haven't spoken to. There's someone in particular I haven't spoken to for 10 years, but there's someone that inspired me, and I've got back in contact with them recently and having a lovely conversation about where we've both ended up. And it's really nice. And actually thinking about where they've ended up now, they're in a role that actually can help me do my job.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. And there's certain advice and experiences people can share that help shape your decision making.
Yeah, that's really good point, because I think even in my role, I think the higher up I go, you realize how those networks and relationships really help your job. Because I say this to a lot of people, you might have a job title, but it doesn't mean that people are going to follow you and do the things that you want. It's those relationships that you build with them and having a due north that you're heading towards together. And something that you said struck me is about when people inspire you, how we feed it back to them, even those people that are in other bands than you or in different roles, because people don't realize that, do they? And I've been reading listening to a book called The Gift of Giants, I think it's called. But I was on a chapter where he's talking about feedback and doing that micro feedback live, because we sometimes forget those and it's those little things that help us, especially in really challenging roles.
Yeah, and just saying thank you, like what you said, it made me think and reflect, and I've taken it on board.
Yeah, no, definitely. Did you want to, was there any sort of, because nursing's quite incredibly demanding, and I think over the last few years we've seen the demand increase. Has there been any challenges or setbacks that you faced that you had to navigate?
I think more recently it's about balancing financial pressures with the needs to deliver high quality patient care. And I think I mentioned earlier that one of the roles I gained insight into the business side of the NHS and managing budgets whilst trying to maintain staff morale. And it was balancing staff morale and good patient outcomes. For me, I just stay grounded to the values that I uphold and actually focusing on people first. So whilst recognizing there are financial pressures and challenges and implications, it just taught me about the importance of transparency, communication, and involving.
But I agree, because I do think the finance has always been in the back of our healthcare. You know, we're stewards of the public purse, but I think if we're always thinking about the patient as the centre of what we do and deliver value-based care, the money looks after itself. I think that's where us as nurses come in. But to be able to do that, we need to, as you say, communicate and let people know what the issues are, because I always find is the people on the front line that can come up with some of the best ideas about how we can spend our money in the best way for the care of the patient.
Yeah, it's how you pitch it, isn't it? And the narrative and the language you use. Everyone's coming to the same outcome and goal, but you have to pitch things differently and focus on what's most important. And I do find that it is upholding your own values, but actually the values of being a nurse.
Yeah, definitely. Great. The other thing is, how do you maintain and prevent burnout? Especially during, like we've just talked about, it's very hard times for healthcare, and you know, it feels like a long time ago, but having gone through COVID, I mean, it's 5 years ago now, but still we're still seeing some of the impact on that. And I read on the Metro that apparently even those that didn't have COVID has aged our brains. But yeah, so how do you just, you know, maintain your well-being and not get burnt out?
So since joining the quality improvement team, I learned a lot about coaching and organizational development, colleagues and what they offer. So maybe in the last 6 years, I've made sure that I have coaching available. So that's coaching with someone that is skilled to deliver coaching, but is separate to my job role. And I find that space really, really useful. It's an opportunity to think through, it's not necessarily a problem, but maybe it's an interaction or a relationship. It could be a problem, and how can I articulate that, unpick it to get the best possible outcome? It just helps me to not react, or maybe those knee-jerk reactions. It gives me time just to think through it. Also peer reflection, so finding someone that's in a similar role, but again not within your area, to have that time and think through actually, if this is a challenge I'm having, surely you've experienced similar or going through it. How do you manage it? Because it helps you to know you're not alone. So I do have a mentor. So I make sure that I keep contact with my mentor and use them to have those conversations and think about my own career development. Yeah, I think that's a really useful space for someone to challenge and support me.
Those are some really good points, Georgia, because I don't think people think they can have coaching outside work, and it's always good to have somebody hold a mirror up to you, because that's what a good coach will do. But also that bit around mentoring, because I guess as nurses we maybe think it's only students that need a mentor and not us ourselves, and how we can mentor others, but also get mentors to support us.
Yeah, and I think understanding and knowing the value of having a mentor, having a coach, is after you've built up your network. So it's speaking to others about actually what is available. If you stay within your own area, you're not going to know what opportunities are there. And I guess what's out there, what support mechanisms are out there. The other thing I would say is, for me, it's reflecting on the why. So why did I become a nurse in the first place? And it's just reminding myself of that. So when things have been really tough, it's been a difficult day, just reminding myself of, why am I doing this role? What's important for me? And maybe it's the QI part of me, that sometimes it's not always about that outcome measure. Sometimes it's about some of those process measures. So what have I achieved today? I might not have achieved the overall outcome I want, but I've still made a positive impact.
Yeah. And I really like that, going back to the why, because Simon Sinek, I think he wrote the book on Start With the Why, and it goes back to when you try and win hearts and minds, is why are we here? Because that's the bit I think is, why am I here? And I really like how you wove in the QI stuff. I know we talked about this, but I think I'm going to have to actually come back and talk just about QI and what that looks like and how people can use it. Because as you know, I absolutely love QI as well. And I just like always asking people to test stuff out, but think about how you're going to measure it, what things that could go wrong. So that's the process stuff that you were talking about. But also, there's something about, if you want to make an improvement, are you making an improvement for making a change sake, or whatever you're going to do is going to actually make a difference, and then thinking about what stuff that is. But yeah, that's a whole different
you twisted my arm.
Cool. The other bit is, what one piece of advice would you give to a new nurse just starting out today?
Find your people. I just think find those that share your values and lift you up. If you meet someone that inspires you, connect with them, keep in contact with them, because your career paths may cross over again at some point, or they may veer off, but just keep those connections going, because they're people that then can become your coach, your mentor, that can help influence your, I guess, decision making further on, and there'll be opportunities. They can link you in with people, and there will be tough days, but always take moments to reflect on what you've achieved. It might feel that you've spent the day firefighting, but you have made a difference, and just remind yourself of that.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And for nurses that are looking to advance their careers and switch specialities or move out from the wards, what key steps or things do you think you would recommend?
So explore courses and development opportunities. There's often a lot more out there than you think. It's just asking the questions, and sometimes it's asking the questions to the right people, which again comes back to the importance of networking, because someone will be able to signpost you. Ask to shadow someone. I remember shadowing the AMP service, and I think this was around a time when they wanted to, there was an opportunity to train up nurses to become AMPs, because obviously usually it's social workers. And I went and shadowed the AMP service for the day. And this helped me understand a different part of the system. And again, is this something that I want to go into? You can have that agreed with your supervisor, line manager, as long as it doesn't impact the service. There's opportunities for your own professional development. And yeah, don't be afraid to make the sideways step. You don't have to rush to go up the ladder. Actually, sideways steps are just as important, and it gives you an opportunity to understand that whole system. We work with acute, urgent care community, but we all work slightly differently. And in order for us to work together, we do have to understand how the other part works. So yeah, go out there, network, take opportunities, ask to do shadow days. And if there's an opportunity, even if it's a sideways step or it's a secondment, take it.
Yeah. So agree with you about the shadowing secondments, because again, like you say, and you said it a little while back, if you do a secondment and go through the right process, I always say to people, but you've got your job to go back to. So if you didn't like it, you've got your job to go back to. And it just opens up your network as well, isn't it? If you just go across, sometimes it might be the ward next door or the ward above you, because they'll be doing totally different things, but you can learn so much, or even your community teams, like you say. And if you could go back and have tea or coffee or drink, whichever one's your tipple, with your younger self just starting nursing school, what is one thing you would say?
So something I heard recently that's really stuck with me is someone said to me, anyone can give you feedback, but it's your choice what feedback you listen to. And I wish I'd heard that earlier on in my career. I feel it's a really powerful reminder to stay open to growth, but also to protect your own self-confidence, self-belief, and stay true to your own values.
Brilliant. Great. So I'm going to leave it there, but thank you so much, Georgia, for sharing your career journeys. There's lots of, really good bits in there that I think people would take away. So it just leaves me to say thank you. And for those of you that have listened, I hope you'll take some things away and go ahead and be bold and brave with some of the advice that you've heard today. So thank you and bye.
Thank you.